Hi dear students, my name is Ubedullah Beg and I am your new English teacher working at MPUP school in Chagallu, located in the beautiful Nakarikallu Mandal of Palnadu district. I am happy to be here and meet all of you virtually. I hope you are all ready for an exciting journey of learning together and I am thrilled to be your teacher. I have been fortunate to have 12 years of teaching experience guiding and inspiring students just like you. Welcome to our online classroom. Get ready to explore, grow, and make a positive impact. Let's begin.
Today we are going to learn something new about shoemaker in our lesson quality. In this lesson we will explore the concept of quality and why it matters. So let's dive in and explore the world of quality together. Before going into the lesson, let us see the overview of the lesson. In this lesson we have three subtopics to cover, namely before you read, quality lesson, that is reading comprehension part 1, working with the text related to this part 1 of the lesson. Before we begin our lesson, let's take a look at what we hope to achieve. That is our learning objective for this lesson. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify the central theme of the lesson, which is about the definition of an artist and the story of a German shoemaker named Mr. Gessler, and identify the setting of the story, which is London. Recognize that the lesson highlights the importance of pride, respect, and devotion in one's work. Discuss the impact of big firms and advertisements on small businesses, using Mr. Gessler's story as an example. Tell the author's opinion about Mr. Gessler as a bootmaker and why did the author visit the shop so infrequently. Now be ready to enter into the first part of the overview, that is before you read. This is an introductory activity of our lesson. We have an exciting lesson ahead of us about the concept of quality. But before we dive into our reading, let's have a quick discussion. Can anyone tell me if a shoemaker can be called an artist? You might be thinking, I don't think so because artists usually work with paints and sculptures, not shoes. That's a valid point, but consider this. What if a shoemaker possesses the same level of skill, pride, and respect for their craft as any other artist? Would they then be considered an artist? Yes, if they put a lot of effort and creativity into making shoes, they could be seen as artists in their own right. Exactly, today we will be reading a story about a German shoemaker named Mr. Gessler who settled in London. He is described as a perfect artist in his trade. Our goal is to explore how Mr. Gessler devotes his life to his art. Let's jump into the reading part of the lesson. This is part 1 of our lesson. Before entering in our lesson, let me ask you only two questions to know how well you have understood the introductory part of the lesson. That is, before you read. Let's answer this question. This is question number 1. What if a shoemaker possesses the same level of skill, pride, and respect for their craft as any other artist? Would they then be considered an artist? Option 1 is, if they put a lot of effort and creativity into making shoes, they could be seen as artists in their own right. Option 2 is, they are not the artists, even though they put a lot of efforts. Children, now tell the answer for this question. Yes, the first one is the correct answer. If they put a lot of effort and creativity into making shoes, they could be seen as artists in their own right. Now let us answer this second question also. What do you understand basically about Mr. Gessler? Option A, an artist. Option B, he is a German. Option C, he is settled in London. Your time starts now. Yes, you are right. All the options are correct. We understood that Mr. Gessler is an artist, he is a German, He is settled in London. Now let's jump into the reading comprehension part of the lesson, which is about quality shoemaker. The name of the lesson is itself quality. Let's get in. The narrator describes a person named Mr. Jessler who had a significant impact on their life. Mr. Jessler was a skilled bootmaker who crafted boots for the narrator's father. He lived with his older brother in a shop located in a quiet street in fashionable London. The shop had a distinct atmosphere with only the name Jessler Brothers displayed and a few pairs of boots in the window. Mr. Jessler had a unique approach to his craft. He only made boots when they were specially ordered, and every pair he created fit perfectly. The narrator, even in their youth, found the process of making such boots to be mysterious and wonderful. The narrator recalls a moment when they shyly asked Mr. Jessler about the difficulty of his work, to which he replied with a smile that it was indeed challenging. The narrator couldn't visit Mr. Jessler frequently because his boots lasted for a long time, surpassing mere temporary quality and possessing a special essence stitched into them. Now let us answer these two questions so that we can know how well we are listening to the story. The first question is there any wrong statement given below? If so, identify that statement about Jessler. Options are Mr. Jessler made narrator's father's boots. Option 2 is lived with elder brother in shop. Option 3 is lived in a small by street in fashionable part of London. Option 4 is all the statements are correct. Your time starts now. Answer the question quickly. Very nice. Your answer is correct. Is there any wrong statement given? No. No wrong statement is there. All are correct. Mr. Jessler made narrator's father's boots, lived with elder brother in shop, lived in a small by street in fashionable part of London. All these statements are correct. So option 4 is correct one. Now let us go to the question number 2. This is the second question. Which one is wrong statement here about Jessler? Options are first one is made boots to order, second one is boots always didn't fit perfectly, third one is craft of making boots seen as mysterious and wonderful. Your time starts now. Quickly answer this question. Yes, second statement is wrong here. Let us correct this wrong statement. The correct statement should be boots always fit perfectly. Jessler made boots to order. Boots always fit perfectly. Craft of making boots seen as mysterious and wonderful. Now let us continue with the lesson. The narrator describes the unique experience of visiting Mr. Jessler's shop. Entering the shop was not like entering most shops but rather a restful experience akin to entering a church. The narrator would sit on a wooden chair and wait, listening to the guttural sound and the tip-tap of Mr. Jessler's slippers on the narrow wooden stairs. Mr. Jessler would then appear before the narrator without a coat and slightly bent, wearing a leather apron with sleeves turned back. The narrator would greet Mr. Jessler and make a request for a pair of Russian leather boots. Without speaking, Mr. Jessler would leave briefly, either returning to where he came from or going to another part of the shop. The narrator would continue to wait in the chair, inhaling the scent of the trade. Mr. Jessler would return, holding a piece of gold brown leather and remark on its beauty. After the narrator admired it as well, Mr. Jessler would ask when the boots were needed. The narrator would respond and Mr. Jessler would suggest a time frame, such as tomorrow fortnight, or consult his elder brother if necessary. You are enjoying the story now. It is very interesting. Let's have 3 questions on the story part just now we have dealt with. The first question is, what does Mr. Jessler do after the narrator requests a pair of Russian leather boots? Options are A. He leaves the shop to fetch the boots from another location. Option B. He tells the narrator that he doesn't have the requested boots. Option C, he ignores the narrator and continues working on other tasks. Now, answer this question quickly. Your time starts now. Yes, you are right. Correct option is option A. He leaves the shop to fetch the boots from another location. Now, the second question is how does the narrator feel while waiting in the chair? Option A. The narrator becomes impatient and leaves the shop. Option B. The narrator feels a sense of frustration and anger. Option C. The narrator enjoys the trade's scent and patiently waits. Now answer this question. Be quick. Yes, you are right. Correct option is option C. The narrator enjoys the trade's scent and patiently waits. The third question is what does Mr. Jessler return with after leaving briefly? Option A pair of Russian leather boots ready for sale. Option B, a piece of fabric unrelated to the boots. Option C, a piece of gold brown leather remarking on its beauty. Be quick, answer this question. Yes, you are right. You are wonderful students. The correct option is option C, a piece of gold brown leather remarking on its beauty. Let's continue with our story. In page 74 and 75, we have interesting paragraphs. In these paragraphs, the narrator tells about their conversations with Mr. Jessler about a pair of boots. After saying thank you and good morning, the narrator would hear Mr. Jessler's slippers going up the stairs, showing that he went back to making boots. The narrator remembers a specific day when they talked to Mr. Jessler about a problem with the previous boots, mentioning that they made a creaking sound. At first, Mr. Jessler looked at the narrator without saying anything, as if he expected them to take back or change what they said. Eventually, he admitted that the boots should not have creaked. When the narrator confirmed that they indeed did creak, Mr. Jessler said it was because the boots needed time to settle. The narrator felt sorry for mentioning the problem, and they noticed that Mr. Jessler looked down, perhaps trying to remember the boots. Realizing the seriousness of the issue, Mr. Jessler told the narrator to send the boots back so he could examine them. He explained that some boots are flawed from the beginning, and if he couldn't fix the problem, he would not charge for them. Here in this lesson, Mr. Jessler is a German who settled in London. The sentence examples provided here demonstrate some common phonetic and grammatical features influenced by a German accent. The substitution of th with d or t sounds as seen in the sentences reflects the difficulty German speakers may have in pronouncing the th sound. We will learn about this in detail in glossary section. So far we have understood the story of part 1 of this story up to page number 75. Let's check out our understanding of the lesson with these questions. Before that, let us see the meaning of new phrases that we faced in the lesson. Now we are going to glossary section. It is an art means it is an art, said with a German accent. As Mr. Jessler, a German shoemaker settled in London, he speaks German accent. Lasted terribly means lasted very long. Guttural means harsh and grating. Incense here means the smell of leather is compared to the smell of incense in a church. What a beautiful piece means what a beautiful piece. When do you want them means when do you want them. Fortnight means fortnight. Brother means brother. It shouldn't have creaked means it shouldn't have creaked. You got them wet before they found themselves means you got them wet before they found themselves. Send them back. I will look at them means send them back, I will look at them. The boots, he continued slowly, are banned from bird. If I can do nothing with them, take them off your bill means some boots are banned from birth. If I can do nothing with them, I take them off your bill. These dialogues have some common phonetic and grammatical features influenced by a German accent. The substitution of th with d or t sound as seen in Greeked or creaked and dove for have reflects the difficulty German speakers may have in pronouncing the th sound. The alteration of vowel sounds such as beautiful for beautiful and brother for brother is another characteristic of a German accent. Additionally, word order may be affected, as seen in you got them wet instead of you got them wet. These features combined with the pronunciation of certain consonants like v as v and z as s contribute to the distinct influence of a German accent on English. Now let us answer the first three questions from working with the text subsection as they are related to our first part of the story. First question is, what was the author's opinion about Mr. Gessler as a bootmaker? Take the time to answer this question. Yes, you're right. The correct answer is the author was highly impressed with the work of Mr. Gessler as a bootmaker. The boots made by Mr. Gessler used to have an exceptional fit. They were made only on order and had the best materials. They lasted so long. Now the second one. Why did the author visit the shop so infrequently? Take the time to answer this question also. Yes, you're right. The correct answer is the author visited the shop so infrequently because the boots made by Mr. Gessler used to stay quite long. Now, question number 3. What was the effect on Mr. Gessler of the other's remark about a certain pair of boots? Let us answer this question in 2 sentences. Answer is Mr. Gessler looked at the author for a while as if expecting him to take back his words on hearing the author's remark about a certain pair of boots. Then he said that maybe the author had got them wet. He told the author to bring the boots back to him so that he would either repair or adjust the price of the boots in the bills. So far, we have covered the lesson and discussed the meanings of the new words, covered working with the text as well. Let's move on to the final assessment questions. This will help us to understand the topic well. Please take a moment to gather your thoughts. Be ready with books and pens, and I will provide you with the assessment questions now. Question number 1. What was Mr. Gessler known for in his profession? The answer is Mr. Gessler was known for creating customized boots. The second question is, how would you describe the ambience of Mr. Gessler's shop? The answer is, the ambience of Mr. Gessler's shop was unique. Question number 3 is, what impressed the narrator about Mr. Gessler's boots? Answer is, the narrator was impressed by the exceptional durability and lasting essence of Mr. Gessler's boots. Question number 4 is, how would you describe the atmosphere when entering Mr. Gessler's shop? Answer is, entering Mr. Gessler's shop was described as a restful experience akin to entering a church. Question number 5 is, what was Mr. Gessler wearing when he appeared before the narrator? The answer is, Mr. Gessler was wearing a leather apron with sleeves turned back and no coat. Now the sixth one. What did Mr. Gessler do after the narrator made a request for Russian leather boots? The answer is, Mr. Gessler left briefly without speaking, either returning to where he came from or going to another part of the shop. Question number 7. What did the narrator do while waiting in the chair? The answer is, the narrator waited in the chair, inhaling the scent of the trade. Question number 8 is, How did Mr. Jessler suggest a time frame for the boots to be ready? The answer is Mr. Jessler would ask the narrator when the boots were needed and suggest a time frame such as tomorrow fortnight or consult his elder brother if needed. Question number 9 is how does the narrator indicate their gratitude and bid Mr. Jessler goodbye? The answer is the narrator expresses gratitude and says Mr. Jessler good morning. Question number 10 is what does the sound of Mr. Jessler's slippers going up to the stairs indicate? Answer is it indicates Mr. Jessler's return to his work and passion for bootmaking. Question number 11 is what issue did the narrator address with Mr. Jessler regarding the previous pair of boots? Answer is the narrator mentioned that the previous pair of boots had creaked. Now question number 12. How did Mr. Jessler initially respond when the narrator mentioned the creaking issue? Answer is Mr. Jessler looked at the narrator without responding, as if expecting them to take back or modify their statement. The last question is what did Mr. Jessler attribute the creaking problem to? Answer is Mr. Jessler attributed the creaking problem to the boots needing time to settle. Till now, we have completed all the topics for today. Here is a summary of part 1 of the lesson. Mr. Jessler is a skilled bootmaker known for his customized boots. His shop, shared with his brother, has a unique and peaceful atmosphere. When visitors enter, it feels like stepping into a calm church. The narrator sits on a wooden chair listening to the sound of Mr. Jessler's slippers on the narrow wooden stairs. Mr. Jessler appears before the narrator wearing a leather apron with sleeves turned back. The narrator requests a pair of Russian leather boots and Mr. Jessler silently leaves the shop only to return with a beautiful piece of gold brown leather. The narrator admires it and Mr. Jessler asks when the boots are needed, suggesting a time frame like tomorrow fortnight. On another occasion, the narrator approaches Mr. Jessler to address a problem with the previous pair of boots that creaked. Mr. Jessler initially stays silent, expecting the narrator to take back their statement. Eventually, he admits the boots shouldn't have creaked, but when the narrator confirms they did, Mr. Jessler explains it as the boots needing time to settle. The narrator feels regretful for bringing up the issue, noticing Mr. Jessler's loud gaze, as if trying to recall the specific boots. Here ends the part 1 of the lesson. I hope you enjoyed it well. Let us meet in the second part of the story. Till then, have a nice day. Bye bye.